Some of my favorite horror films in the past decade have actually come from the same franchise, and that is A Quiet Place 1 and Part 2. But now we got a prequel taking us back to where it all began. But the question is this prequel on par with the previous two or maybe even better? But the more important question is, should you all give it a watch? Well, we'll be discussing that and much more in today's spoiler-free review of A Quiet Place Day 1. Before getting into my thoughts of this film, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Are you all a fan of this series? And which of the two films before this prequel was your favorite? But more importantly, once you've seen this new film, let me know your thoughts on it in the comments below. So A Quiet Place Day 1 was easily one of my most anticipated films to see this year because like I said, I love the previous two films. And even though this new movie and this prequel wasn't going to include those characters that I fell in love with, besides like Djimon Hounsou, who was in part 2, and of course the aliens, I was so excited to see Lupita because I think she's one of the best actors working in Hollywood, and I really enjoyed Joseph Quinn, who was in season 4 of Stranger Things. And the director of this movie did a film like 3 or 4 years ago starring Nicolas Cage and Alex Wolff, who's in this movie, by the name of Pig. If you haven't seen that movie, it's fantastic. So it had all the good things going for it, but again, the question remains, is this movie any good? Well, let's talk about it. First thing I have to say is I was not expecting this film to be as personal and as character driven as it is. Now there are some things I personally was hoping to explore more, which we'll discuss a little bit later in this review, but the character development and the focus on survival and putting an emphasis on life and the little things in life and appreciating the things in life in the face of death just really shocked me that the film took the direction and approach with this big alien invasion situation. Now of course the family that we follow in the first film that continues their story in the second one, we get the quieter moments and the tender moments with those characters, and it is very character driven, but I would say this film takes it to another level where there are even more quieter moments. There's even more reflection that the characters are going on, and they're making peace with their particular situation. So again, I can't stress enough how character focused this film is, more so than any other previous films in this franchise. Now I give a lot of credit to the director of this film, who based on this movie and his previous film Pig, he definitely puts a focus on the human experience and makes his main character's journey being that they find the joy within the darker moments. The character work is really solid in this film because it makes you take time and sitting in scenes with these characters and getting into their mindset to understand their emotions and their motivations, so when the action does happen and those more thrilling moments, you as an audience are actually worried for these characters because you care for what happens to them, because the film puts so much legwork in and making you feel emotionally connected to their story and have an emotional weight to their actual narrative. Now, a film like this in this franchise that has most of its actors being silent for 99% of the film, you have to have excellent actors to convey so much emotions, right? You have to have an Emily Blunt, a John Krasinski, a Cillian Murphy, a Djimon Hounsou, and now we have Lupita Nyong'o and Joseph Quinn, who are just excellent in this film. The chemistry and the bond created between Sam and Eric really work and definitely was a highlight for me. I can personally say I've never seen a bad performance or a bad moment in which I wasn't fully brought into the character played by Lupita Nyong'o. Her commitment to her characters is nothing short of impressive. Sam has to deal with something that is life-altering in this film, and that particular situation shapes how she deals with this alien invasion and having to come to terms with fighting for something and going on this very personal arc and journey that will definitely leave a lot of you all emotionally damaged. Now, Joseph Quinn plays Eric, who's almost the complete opposite of Sam in the sense that he's directionless and lost in the situation, but also in life in general, and really relies on her to help him. But seeing what he goes through and he overcomes and what he finds in this film really worked. But a character that completely gripped my attention and surprised me by how much I cared about them is Sam's cat, who goes by the name of Frodo. Now, I'll be honest, I'm not a cat guy and nothing against cats. I'm more of a dog guy, but putting my personal preference aside, Frodo is a very important character to this film, and by the end, I was rooting for that cat to make it out, and I wasn't distracted by the cat or upset by them doing some crazy things. Frodo might be the MVP for a lot of people watching this film. Now, from a production standpoint, I thought the switch from the small town upstate location into the big city environment was very impressive. The scope and scale of being in New York City really changes everything, and knowing how loud the city can be and how much tension that puts on the characters really made for a thrilling experience. Also thought the sound design was great, just as the other films, but the cinematography really stood out to me. Like, just the overall look was just great. The last thing I want to mention my positives is just putting an emphasis on how how much of a character-focused story this is and how personal it is. But also, I would say that this film isn't exactly what I was expecting. Again, we'll talk on that here in a little bit, but this definitely goes in the camp for me of a prequel set in a familiar world and setting, but gives you a different perspective and makes it feel familiar but different at the same time. I would say this film reminded me a lot of Cloverfield and the sequel 10 Cloverfield Lane, or even the most recent film Prey. And to me, those are prequels that give you a much different experience and a story from a character's perspective, but still manage to capture what came before. But the film doesn't come without its flaws. Transitioning to my criticisms that I have with this film. Now, I said it a couple of times in this review and my positives of how I wasn't expecting things to play out the way it did, or wanting to explore more of the film, and that's where my criticisms kind of start is, and that's the true origins of it being titled Day One. To me, this didn't go into much of any detail of the creatures, nor where they come from, or adding any new information or lore that we didn't already know from the previous two films. Now, I know how to separate my ideas or what I was thinking a film could be before going in, but then walking out and seeing the film for what it is and judging for what it is. But my issue with this film is I can't deny that I found the marketing of this film to present it as one thing, but it being something different when you actually see it. Again, to me, the marketing made it seem as though that we will be expanding on things and learning more things, but again, it doesn't really do that, and that was disappointing to me. Now, again, how I compared this movie to like a Cloverfield, to 10 Cloverfield Lane, or even Prey, those are movies that I think are great movies without even being attached to an IP. And I would say the same thing about this movie, where I almost feel as though, and this goes back to if you know the history of 10 Cloverfield Lane, where like they had a movie already, and then J.J. Abrams and Bad Robot said, hey, let's make this into a Cloverfield Lane movie. And I feel like this has a similar type of feel to it, where like there's a good story, a good emotional story, and then later on the producers and the studio came in and say, hey, let's make that into a Quiet Place. And again, it's not that it's a bad Quiet Place film, it's just not as cohesive, or again, giving us the information that I was hoping to learn a little bit more with it being titled Day One. But the most disappointing thing for me about this movie was it wasn't as suspenseful nor as tense-filled as the others. I think about 2018's A Quiet Place, and I think about the Emily Blunt in the tub giving birth to her child and how suspenseful and scary that was, or her going downstairs and stepping on the nail in the basement. Think about Part 2 and the opening sequence. Like, those are memorable moments that are tense-filled, that are just scary as hell in my opinion. And I would say when it comes to A Quiet Place Day One, it's not that it's not suspenseful, but as far as the scare factor, it never really got to those levels for me. Now, the last criticism I have is kind of a mixture of me just wanting more, and knowing that this is a Sam and Eric, Lupita and Joseph Quinn led film. They're great in this movie, great chemistry, but we also have two other great actors, Alex Wolff and Djimon Hounsou, who again, like I said, Djimon Hounsou is in Part 2, and his inclusion in Alex Wolff, I just wish they were more impactful to the story, because again, they're great actors and I just wanted to get more of their story. Again, understanding that it wasn't the story, but I just wish they were used more in the main narrative. So again, it's me selfishly just wanting great actors to be in a film more, but I thought narratively they could have impacted the story more if they were more involved. So those are my main pros, those are my main cons. Before I give you all my overall score and let you know if this is worth checking out, I want to take the time to thank you all for making it to this point in the video. If you could, do me a favor, hit that thumbs up, share this video, but also share your thoughts about this movie in the comments below, and consider sticking around by subscribing to the channel. Overall, I would say I really enjoyed the human element, and the story focused on our two main characters, and having two great performances really made this for an emotionally satisfying experience. The set design, the sound design, the overall direction was great, but unfortunately it doesn't have the same high tension filled, thrilling, scary moments as the previous films did, and it didn't really add anything new to the material regarding the creatures. And I do feel like this could have been its own thing without the IP, but I still enjoyed it overall, and it is a welcome addition to this wonderful franchise. I'm going to give A Quiet Place Day One a 3.5 out of 5. So I'm going to probably share my ranking with you all on these three films, but I would say that this movie didn't quite hit the highs of Part 1 or Part 2, but it's still, like I said, a really good film that I think deserves that theatrical type experience. So overall, go check it out in theaters, and when you all do, let me know what you thought in the comments below. Favorite moments, least favorite moments, were you legit scared? And more importantly, would you want to see another Quiet Place? Because I think they're making a Part 3 with John Krasinski coming back and Emily Blunt. So let me know if you all would like to see that, but also let me know, like I said, what you all thought of the film overall. Thank you again for watching today's review. You all are awesome. Stay safe, and I'll catch you all on the next video.